Hi there, my name is Jerome Van Orman, and I'm going to be presenting to you today some of the educational philosophy and the importance of an educational philosophy from John Locke. John Locke, who has been one of the most influential thinkers of our time, who has also been known as the father of classic liberalism. He was born in 1632 in Somerset, England. He has also been an economist, a political operative, a physician, was a scholar at Oxford University, and was also a medical researcher, among other things. Locke has been credited with a lot of different types of philosophies for government, education, and many other things as well. His writings greatly influenced the founding fathers of the United States when they decided to write the Constitution. They implemented his idea that the power to govern was obtained from the permission of the people. And Locke believed that the purpose of the government was to protect the natural rights of its citizens. When it came to education, John Locke believed that children were essentially born with a mind like a blank sheet of paper. He called it a tabula rasa, a clean slate, so to speak. He also maintained that children are potentially free and rational beings. The realization of these human qualities tends to be disillusioned through imposition of the sort of prejudice that perpetrates oppression and fallacy. He believed that it was the upbringing and the education that hindered the development of children's humanity. And he noted two consequences of the doctrine of the tabula rasa, which is egalitarianism and vulnerability. The purpose of education, according to John Locke, was to produce an individual with not only a sound mind, but a sound body, so as to better serve their country. Locke thought that the content of education ought to depend on one's station in life. The common man only required moral, social, and vocational knowledge. He could do quite well with the Bible and a highly developed vocational skill that would serve to support him in life and offer social service to others around him. However, the education of what he called the gentleman ought to be of the very highest quality, and the gentleman must serve his country in a position of leadership. For gentlemen, Locke believed that he must have thought a thorough knowledge of his own language. The schools of the Puritans in England broke with tradition completely, and they sought to educate one for the society in which he would live. The schools were therefore called schools of social realism, and Locke held that the content of the curriculum itself must serve to some practical end. He recommended the introduction of contemporary foreign language, history, geography, economics, arithmetic, and science. And he had this set of four principles when it came to the education of the gentleman. First was a moral training, in a sense stating that all Christians must learn to live virtuously. Number two was good breeding, and it sounds kind of odd to us in the 21st century when we talk about education of students at any level in academics, to talk about good breeding. But he said that the gentleman must develop the poise, control, and outward behavior of excellent manners. Education must aim, therefore, at developing and correcting these social skills. And sometimes I think a little bit today we've gotten away from that principle. Third is wisdom. Wisdom was to have the gentleman to be able to apply intellectual and moral knowledge in governing his practical affairs. And finally, the fourth one is useful knowledge. The gentleman must receive education, which will lead to a successful life in the practical affairs of the society which he lives, as well as that which leads to the satisfaction derived from scholarship and good books. And so with those types of principles combined with his outlook on how someone could effectively go about and lead in their society and exist in their society, made Locke somewhat of an outsider when it came to educational philosophy back in those times. When I was looking at some of the research, specifically when it came to some of the critics of John Locke, I found kind of a theme about people essentially focusing on his educational theories basically being applicable in a small setting, meaning that it's not something that they believe would be effective in a large class setting. And so, for example, in my classrooms, I average 28 to 30 students every period. So for me, this would be something that would be a little bit more difficult just because of the sheer volume of students I deal with. If you were in a small classroom setting, 10, 15 kids, or if you were working in a one-on-one situation, a tutor, so to speak, these types of theories and this educational philosophy would be greatly used, I could see, absolutely. I just feel that for my situation in a large high school, it is very difficult to focus on some of the things because of the sheer number of students I deal with. I can just give you an example of when we were going through a lesson, and it was talking about morality, and it was talking about things pertaining to how one should act and the manners. And it was a difficult unit to do because of the variance in kids. The class I had 31 students. And so the amount of opinions and the amount of activities that you would have to do to try to corral that, it was a little difficult. So I was interested in definitely looking up John Locke's theory of education as philosophy. And there's some of it, actually a lot of it, that I do agree with. I just wish that I could have a little smaller of a setting for me to effectively implement it. Thank you.